coming. And now we're going to get down to the business at hand. We're going to introduce now Attorney Crump.
Thank you so much, Pastor Pearson, for allowing us to have this press conference, this important press conference here in your church. I'm Attorney Benjamin Crump. I have the honor of serving as the lead counsel along with co-counsels Anthony Gray and Daryl Parks on behalf of the family of Micheal Brown Jr. We also have present with us one of the highly respected, one of the most renowned forensic pathologists living today, Dr. Michael Baden, who we retain to be the family's pathologist to conduct an independent autopsy on their behalf. With him, who assisted him, is Professor Sean Parcells. They will be addressing you momentarily. The Brown family wanted to have this autopsy performed on their behalf because they did not know whether the federal officials were going to conduct their own independent autopsy. And they did not want to be left having to rely on the autopsy done by the St. Louis law enforcement agencies, the same individuals they feel are responsible for executing their son in broad daylight. So therefore, that is why they begged and pleaded to have an independent autopsy done. The attorneys here, we know too well, if you don't have your own autopsy and you have to depend completely on the police department autopsy, that's not a good thing. But even our clients understood that wasn't a good thing, that they could not trust what was going to be put in the reports about the tragic execution of their child. Secondly, I want to stress very clearly that this is only a preliminary report. Very preliminary. It answered questions, and Dr. Baden and Professor Parcells will get to elaborate, but it answered just basic questions. The number of shots, which was always a question that not only the family, the citizens of Ferguson, but people all over the country who had this colorblind curiosity to know what happened wanted to know. And that question was answered partly, and as Dr. Baden has opined and stated in the interview that was released, that it could have been answered on day one if you were really trying to have transparency be the objective. But what we now know from Dr. Baden and Professor Parcells' preliminary, very preliminary autopsy is at least six shots. Could be more, but at least six. They will have to consort with the other medical examiners who did the first autopsy. And Dr. Baden will explain to you why that's so very, very important, doing thousands and thousands of autopsies. As he explains, you want all the information you can get. This only tells part of the story. You know, also the clothes have to be recovered. That will talk about whether there's any residue on them and so forth. He explains, as only he can explain, you know, you want to talk about what was recovered in the x-rays. And most importantly, the witness accounts, the eyewitness accounts, which is so very important into bringing the full story together. And what does this preliminary autopsy tell us? It verifies that the witness accounts were true, that he was shot multiple times, and it's going to be one of those those things that we have to get all the witness statements out and look at all the autopsies, all the evidence to put this picture together. But his family knows that the witnesses, what they were telling them about him being shot multiple times in broad daylight, was accurate. And you all have reported on many of the witness accounts where they said his hands was up. That is in there. When they talk about the ways it happened, it's in there. And so we have to go from this point with this preliminary autopsy and try to get all the information so we can get the answers that not only the family wants, but Ferguson wants and the country wants. His mother and father and their family, they had just a few questions for Dr. Baden, and that is, the first question was, how many times was he shot? And so that question was answered, at least initially, as Dr. Baden met with the mother. She had the lingering question, as any mother would have, was my child in pain? And Dr. Baden shared with her, in his opinion, he did not suffer. And then lastly, his mother wanted to ask the question that Dr. Baden nor any of the lawyers could answer. What else do we need to give them to arrest the killer of my child?